I'd like to invite now Yair Snir from Dell Technologies Capital. He has a very interesting panel on the topic of the Israeli Cybersecurity Oasis. Bevakasha.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'd like to invite my esteemed panelists and good friends, Yifat Oron, Rona Segev, and Liran. Please join us. So good morning, everyone. It's a great honor being here, and thanks for everyone who's here. We're pleased to have you. Just before we introduce ourselves, on a personal note, I'd say it's not trivial being here today and in these times, and we highly appreciate it, and we're grateful for that. We're going to try making it as interesting as possible. It's going to be a bit challenging given the previous session, but we'll do our best. I'm Yair Snir. I'm a managing partner with Dell Technologies Capital, which is Michael Dell's Bay Area early stage VC. I'll let my dear friends and panelists introduce themselves, please.
Good morning. My name is Yifat Oron. I'm the head of Blackstone Israel office and a partner at the Growth Fund. 2 words about Blackstone. It's not trivial in 2 words, but people tell me we're the largest alternative investor in the world. We're composed of about 60 different strategy funds, all private, and we're traded, and we're worth $150 billion, and we're managing $1 trillion. And all this money is going to go to cyber. No, I'm kidding. Israeli cyber. We're mainly a buyout fund, big credit operation, and real estate. And one of the things, then maybe we'll touch on it later, that we have about 230 different portfolio companies, and we have many, many other assets, all of which we care a lot about their cyber readiness, and as such, we do a lot of work in this business. Thank you.
Hey everyone, Liran Grinberg, a co-founder and a managing partner at Team8. We back cyber companies for the past 10 years. And we're also the fund behind the seed rounds of Talon, Dig, and Gem, which are 3 of the major cyber exits from the recent time post October 7th.
Hi, my name is Rona Segev, and I'm the founding partner of TLV Partners. We are a fund that specializes in infrastructure. As part of that, we are doing cyber as well. But from the angle of looking at the whole infrastructure, we were the seed investor at Rona. You just and we are now, we raise 7 funds over $1 billion, and we're one of the leading seed funds in Israel.
So, the topic for our panel today is called the Israeli Cybersecurity Oasis. And just before getting in, someone asked me, why so? And my answer to that is, if you look at the figures and the numbers, since the beginning of 23, we had 25 exits, out of which 11 happened after October 7th, okay? The time to exit in the past 12 months has gotten shortened. So now it's about average of 5 years. It used to be 6.5 years. The average exit size has gotten also larger. It ranges $300 to $350 million, where it used to be around $200 million. We've seen recent mega fundraising rounds, over $100 million rounds, Wiz, Sierra, Coro, Island, Silverfort, Exonius, and a few others. Only in Q1, talk about Israeli cybersecurity, we've seen fundraising worth of $650 million, okay? We're seeing an emergence of new foreign VCs that are going to be focused on Israeli cybersecurity, kind of pretty mind-blowing, I'd say. And when I'm saying mind-blowing, that applies to, when you look at a reference of the Israeli tech, but at the same time, looking at the global cybersecurity and the global tech, like something really remarkable that's happening here. So today we're going to try understanding and unwinding it a bit through my great panelists. So let's kind of ask with a immediate question, kind of, what's going on here? I mean, how can we explain this phenomenon?
You have the mic. I go. I think first, important to note what's happening in cyber is first beyond Israel, right? As a market generally, it's a special market, unlike any others in tech, where you have attackers that are someone on the other side, offenders that are constantly innovating. You don't see it in other categories, and this new innovation, but the attackers requires new innovation to tackle. So we need more cyber innovation. And there's also new technologies generally that are introduced to the world, whether it's mobile in the past or cloud thereafter or AI now. And these new technologies require new attack surfaces. So again, we need more innovation. So it's just a market that requires constant new innovation, which is different than other categories, I'd say. And for this reason, we see a lot of what's happening. And for this reason, we're seeing a company like Palo Alto Networks crossing $100 billion market cap, the first pure play cyber company to do so, CrowdStrike not far away behind. So there's something amazing going in this in the space of cyber as a market and its growth, regardless to Israel. And let's bring Israel to the equation. Obviously, the story that everybody will tell is about the Israeli talent and the role that the military played. And that's true still today, similarly to what we've seen in the 80s or 90s in cellular and telco. We've then saw in cyber, based on the cyber warfare work that 8200 and the likes are doing, that contributed a lot. With the only addition that there's a flywheel now. Because of all these successes in cyber, we see a lot of accomplished entrepreneurs, accomplished talent, accomplished executives in startup companies that then do another company, and that expertise is really creating that flywheel of creating more and more companies that will be better with more experience. And it's a flywheel that I think will just keep going.
I think one thing that is unique for the cyber is that you don't have a monopoly there. One big company. You have a lot of companies that are competing for market share. So they are buying. And in the last 2 years, when M&As were down all over, only in cyber, actually, we saw some M&As, okay? In AI, we're now starting to see, right? Mostly cyber. What is happening right now around cyber is probably, overreaction to the fact that there were M&As. I think in a similar way to Bitcoins, when your driver, your taxi driver is also buying Bitcoin, it's probably a good time to stop or at least think about it a little bit. But it definitely became a very, very attractive market, especially in the last 2 years, because it was the only market that we actually saw some M&As, even if they weren't that big.
Although I'm a year and a half in the business, no, I'm kidding, 30. I remember times when people asked or commented, how many years do you guys think, and I'm talking international audience, how many years do you think you're going to be able to exhaust this cyber, thing? Unfortunately, or I'll say it differently.
Fortunately.
Well, the reasons are unfortunate. I actually will go as far as to say that a few years back, many of the very talented people who came from the right places in the military, who would normally be probably doing cyber companies, were actually starting to divert away. And they said, okay, we had enough of cyber. Let's do things that are good for the world. Let's do healthcare IT, things, energy, renewable energy. Unfortunately, the world is bringing us right back into, it's not going to be over. We need to continue to innovate. And so this, you said flywheel and unfortunate needs and adversaries that are getting smarter, richer, state-driven, et cetera, make it a very complicated story, and therefore we need more companies. Another question that was asked, and now I'm living more this very late stage buyout stage of, well, great companies, great exits, but they're good for the early stage funds because they start, it doesn't matter how much revenues they do, there's almost a floor to what they can get because the talent is worth a lot of money. It used to be 200, maybe it's now more. And there was a big question about the ability to have real big companies that stay independent. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be either private or public, but they're independent and they're not going to be sold to strategics. The nice thing that started to happen is not only in the world that we're seeing very large independent businesses like you just mentioned, Palo Alto, but there is a bunch that are worth dozens and dozens of billions of dollars. We're actually seeing Israeli companies becoming huge compared to many of the other businesses that were growing in Israel. Reasons vary, and we can dive into it, but the fact that we have second-timers that are now rushing to sell, who want to have their own business, they understand that you can't just have one specific functionality, that you have to build a platform. They're starting to acquire, whether in Israel or outside of Israel, which is amazing for the ecosystem, both those who buy and those who get acquired. And obviously it becomes much more interesting to the players like Blackstone and similar funds who can actually understand that there is some kind of an underwriting capability of us projecting forward and not thinking it's, short span functionality coming out, getting acquired next. There is real ability to invest very big checks in big companies who are going to be sustainable, hopefully publicly traded and very successful.
Amazing. So, Rona, question to you. And again, to your point, you're part of you're a VC that invests in early stages across the board, including cyber, but not exclusively. This whole oasis that we're talking about, how sustainable is it?
I think it's sustainable, but it's going to change. I think what is happening right now is a bubble, okay? It's just like crazy. But of course there is need to cyber. We need to protect our infrastructure. We need to protect our data. I think that what we're going to see in the future, not like in the near future, is that those silos that you have security experts, you have data engineers or data experts, you have DevOps, it's all going to merge. Okay, it doesn't really make sense to have this separation of duties and responsibilities. And we've seen a huge change when IT kind of became DevOps. We see that it can happen. And I do believe it's going to happen in the future. I think that AI will really accelerate that need. And we are already seeing some kind of early indication of kind of data platforms for security and stuff like that.
But also on the attack surface, right? The AI can go. Unfortunately, as we know, technology has a tendency of being, abused, sometimes for the wrong purposes.
Yeah, and from different angles.
Yeah.
So we're going to see a very interesting shift and change. So I'm not sure that in 2 or 3 years ago, in the future, we'll talk here about cyber specifically, kind of like we'll talk more about kind of protecting our infrastructure and data. And my bet is that we are about to see a major change in the whole stack because of what AI will do to the infrastructure, but this is a longer...
So we're going to be talking about that. That's super interesting. We're going to get to that. Liran, from a slightly different angle, right? If I may, you guys, teammate, which you're one of the founders and managing partners, you guys are what we call a cybersecurity powerhouse, right? Cyber from all directions, angles, dimensions. How sustainable is it, what we've currently been experiencing?
So I'll tell you a secret. 3 or 4 years of our journey, we've built, I think, backed 5 companies at this stage. We thought it's not sustainable, meaning we weren't going to be backing 20 more cyber companies, and this will go on and on and on forever. Like, how many cyber companies could it be? And this is the time where Teammate expanded to additional domains. So our group today does data and AI infrastructure, apropos, and fintech and digital health. But nowadays, 10 years into the journey, I think it's definitely sustainable. Going to be continuing, and we're continuing to double down for all the reasons that we mentioned earlier. So just another data point. We just came back from California, where we hosted something that we do in Israel every year for 5 days, the CISO Village, where we're bringing over 100 CISOs for 5 full days. Unfortunately, this year we couldn't do it in Israel, so we've done it in California. But we surveyed the folks and their budgets. So last year, it was a year where the market was slowed down, and when we asked them about budget, half of them have increased the budgets that year, and the vast majority of the other half kept the budget the same. Only a fraction really had reduced budgets, which is not what we've seen in broader IT. This time around, where the markets are a little bit back, the vast majority of the CISOs in the crowd had a budget increase. Just another data point to show that this market is growing and in demand for the new innovations, and the boards, etc., of those companies are providing the budgets to do it. And lastly, I wanted to say, okay, we're talking for 10 minutes now and the word AI was not mentioned, doesn't make sense, and Rona picked it up. I think for this to be sustainable in the sense of Israel continues to be the leader. And when I say the leader, by the way, if you look at all the emerging categories in security, not all of them, but the vast majority of the new categories that are being created in the past 5 years, most of the companies in those categories are Israeli, and the leaders within the 5+ companies in each categories that are being created, the leaders are Israeli. Not in all the categories, but in the majority of them, which is a fantastic trend. For us to keep this, I think AI will be just an integral part of it. Attackers are early adopters to use AI. The defense comes a little bit after that. And we in Israel, and I think this will come from the military as well, will have to keep up and actually level up what we do in AI, which I'm very optimistic that this country will do, but it will need to be an integral part for our success as Israelis in cyber to be sustainable.
Please do.
Thank you. So I'm obviously reiterating what Liran said. All of our companies kept, if not increased, their budgets of cyber compared to the rest of the things. I think that we have to also remember this is very much governed by the managements and the boards. Like, no board is sitting there and asking the CTO, how long does it take your employees to log into whatever? Nobody really monitors that. But everybody monitors what is going to be the potential damage, both physical, monetary, reputation risk, all these things that are huge. And so this is one, this drives it forward. And also, I think, which also is very helpful always, is regulatory issues. When the regulation tells you need to be compliant with data-related things and other things, you spend the money. So if you need to cut your budget, you cut it, but you cut it in places that most of your management and the board don't even know how to measure, if I have to be very blunt.
We'll stay with you, Yifat, if that's okay, and let's kind of take the discussion towards slightly different direction. So, if we're looking at it, in the past 2 years, it is fair to say that the bigger winners in kind of this Israeli cybersecurity oasis have been the Israeli seed investors. Now, how is it going to evolve? How do you foresee it as a significantly later stage investor? Kind of, how do you perceive it? How is it? If at all, is it going to change? How would it be affected? How would foreign investors at a later stage was going to look at it and kind of, at the end of the day, we're all kind of concluding conclusions and kind of trying to understand what's right or less appealing for us. Kind of happy to get your thoughts.
First of all, I'm very happy that the Israeli seed investors make money. Okay? We have to make sure that we have a local industry that continues to make money, that continues to get more funds. And although some very, very famous top-tier foreign funds are coming in relatively aggressively, I hope that the Israeli guys and ladies will continue to take money from the locals, because Israel needs to sustain itself on all levels, including having a healthy venture community. In terms of the later stages, I touched on it before. Again, another lucky thing is we have second-timers and we have very, very hungry, ambitious entrepreneurs. And which, by the way, most of the situations of those companies, not just in cyber, the Israeli companies that succeed end up being those who have the CEOs that were there, the CEOs from day one. So that's another fact that, by the way, my colleagues are always amazed. They're like, really? I said, yeah, when you invest the first dollar, you have to also bet if that person is going to be able to take it public, because usually if that person is not taking it public, it's probably not going to go public. A little weird thing about Israeli tech. But one of the things, again, those entrepreneurs, they don't want to sell. Some of them do, some of them don't. We don't need everybody to be public, and the M&A are fine and make money, so more companies will start. But we have very ambitious people, I don't want to name the specific ones, but we all know who they are, who started with a certain vision and are getting more and more aggressive in their vision. And luckily, the big monies are after those people, and are willing to give the money to go and roll up and acquire other things. So I don't think we have a glass ceiling for Israeli tech in general and Israeli cyber in particular. And again, I'll say it this way. It's always hard to be successful. It's always hard to be Israeli successful. It's not trivial. But thank God we have a good tailwind for cyber, because Israel is very synonymous with cyber. So I do hope we have many more companies traded on NASDAQ, and the sky's the limit.
Great. Now we're going to do a quick round. We're going to be doing the same question across the three of you, please. And we've touched it a bit earlier. How do you see the Israeli cybersecurity landscape in 5 years from now? Rona, you going to want to start?
I don't think they're going to be Israeli cyber. I think they're going to be early stage funds that are going to invest in infrastructure. This is really truly my belief. I think that cyber is going to be part of the infrastructure. I'll discuss it later. I don't think we're going to see those silos anymore. Of course, we will always have to defend our infrastructure, and it's going to be harder and harder and more complex. And I think part of the reason that we don't see a lot of companies that are becoming very big, and hopefully we'll see more, although I think Israeli proved to the world that we can build multi-billion companies and take companies public. We've done that like 5-7 years ago, okay? And we continue to do that. I think that part of it is that you need to be a bit visionary, okay? So if you're investing or you are building a company that in a year and a half, it's already kind of the mainstream, and everyone understands that they need it, and everyone is going to start buying your competition, it's becoming very, very hard to build a company. So if you really want to build a big company, you need really to kind of try to imagine what will happen 3 or 4 years from now, and kind of be more visionary. And I truly believe that the Israeli market is there, and we're starting to see like really, really interesting things happening.
In 5 years, I believe Israel will continue to be a cyber powerhouse and a leader in the space. I believe we'll also be an AI powerhouse. From our small role in this, Teammate is now building a research group in AI full-time on the team as part of this, because this is where the future is going, and we have to make those investments like we've done 10 years back in security. So I think cyber will be big, AI will be big, and I hope to see, again, we mentioned those big companies being created, but also on the M&A side, I believe we'll see more M&A within the Israeli ecosystem. So if you look at GEM being acquired by Wiz, again, 2 Israeli companies, and there's tons of other examples with Checkpoint and the likes, I think we'll see more and more big outcomes happening within the local ecosystem, which would be great as well.
I woke up in a good mood today, which is very rare since October 7th. But I knew about your question ahead of time, and I did a little bit of a small exercise. And I'm going to ask the audience, who can guess how much NVIDIA was worth 5 years ago? Don't look at your cell phones. 144 as of December 2019, so probably a little less mid-year. What is my point? My point is I have no idea. And I hope that the growth rate of our companies is going to be as high, not more, as high as NVIDIA's success. But I can't predict. But that's those are my 2 cents.
Thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure having you.